The story you tell yourself isn't just background noise. It's the script that directs every thought, decision, and action you take. Your identity, your sense of self, is built on that internal narrative. If you tell yourself you're not smart enough, not strong enough, or not worthy of success, you'll subconsciously live within those limits. You'll hesitate when you should move, settle when you should grow, and give up when you should fight. Why? Because your brain is wired to act in alignment with the story it believes. Most people never stop to question their story. They say things like, "That's just how I am," or "This is my reality," without realizing that what they're really doing is defending a narrative, often one they never consciously chose. Maybe it was shaped by a painful experience. Maybe someone else's opinion got stuck in your mind and became your truth. But just because it feels true doesn't mean it is. Here's the good news: you can change your story, and when you do, everything else follows. You can start believing you're resourceful, capable, worthy of love and success, even before you have proof. That's not being delusional. That's leading your life instead of reacting to it. When you begin to tell a more empowering story, your identity shifts. You stop living in reaction to your past and start creating your future. And once your identity changes, your behavior changes, and ultimately your life transforms to match the new story you've chosen to live by. Most people go through life acting out a script they didn't write. From a young age, we're told who we are, what's possible for us, and how the world works. Maybe a teacher once said you weren't smart. Maybe your parents modeled fear around money. Maybe your culture placed limits on what someone like you could achieve. Slowly, those messages became your story. You didn't choose it consciously, but you've been living by it ever since. And here's the crazy part: most people never realize it. They think they're making free choices when in reality they're just following a pre-written script, one that was handed to them before they even had the chance to question it. That script says, play it safe, don't speak up, stay in your lane, and without realizing it, they comply. Not because they lack intelligence or ambition, but because they've never been told they have the power to rewrite the story. But you do have that power. You can stop being the actor and become the author. You can choose what to keep, what to discard, and what to rewrite completely. It takes awareness, courage, and responsibility. But the freedom that comes with it is life-changing. You're not bound by the story you were given. You can ask, does this belief serve me? Does this pattern reflect who I truly want to be? And if not, you can write a new script, one where you are no longer the victim of your past, but the architect of your future. Emotion doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from the meaning we give to what happens. That's why two people can go through the exact same event and walk away feeling completely different. One feels devastated, the other feels empowered. One gives up, the other rises. It's not the event, it's the story they told themselves about the event that made the difference. Think about it. A breakup can mean I'm unlovable to one person and I just made room for someone better to another. Losing a job can mean I'm a failure, or this is my chance to finally pursue my purpose. The event is neutral. It's the meaning, the story, we attach to it that generates the emotion, and once you understand that, you get your power back, because if you can change the meaning, you can change the emotion. You don't have to be trapped by pain, rejection, or failure. You can shift your story and say, this isn't the end, it's the beginning. You can turn heartbreak into wisdom, turn loss into gratitude, turn struggle into strength. This is the power of human beings. We are meaning-making machines. But most people are doing it unconsciously. They let their pain shape their meaning, and that meaning shapes their life. But the truth is, you can take control. You can pause, reflect, and choose a different interpretation. One that fuels growth instead of fear, one that empowers instead of paralyzes. Change the story, change the meaning, and changing your story doesn't happen by accident. It happens the moment you raise your standards. When you draw a line in the sand and say, this is no longer acceptable, everything begins to shift. Your language changes, your mindset changes, And most importantly, your identity begins to evolve. Because your story is a reflection of what you're willing to tolerate. Emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually. If your story says, "I'm just not a morning person," then hitting snooze becomes normal. But when your standard becomes, "I'm the kind of person who honors my commitments even when it's uncomfortable," your behavior follows suit. If your story says, "I've always struggled with money," you'll keep playing small. But when your standard becomes, "I refuse to live in financial stress," you find new ways to create, grow, and take control. The transformation happens when "I can't" becomes "I must." Because when something becomes a must, you find a way. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop living at the level of your conditions and start living at the level of your vision. That shift from low standards to non-negotiable standards is the birthplace of a new story. Raising your standards isn't about being perfect. It's about deciding you're done settling, done surviving, done telling the same disempowering story. From that place, real change begins. You stop waiting for permission and start rewriting the script of your life, with purpose, with urgency, and with a new identity built on what you now demand of yourself. When you change your story, you don't just think differently, you start showing up differently. That shift in identity creates a ripple effect, and it leads to one of the most important forces for transformation: massive action. You see, people don't take consistent, bold action when they're trapped in an identity full of doubt and limitation. But when your story becomes one of strength, worth, and purpose, action becomes natural. You don't have to force it, you become it. If you start telling yourself, "I'm disciplined, I'm resourceful, I'm a leader," your brain begins to look for ways to align with that identity. Suddenly waking up early, making the call, hitting the gym, or launching the business isn't something you dread. It's something you do because it's who you are now. That's the power of identity. Your actions will never outgrow the story you believe about yourself. And when those new actions are repeated with consistency, momentum builds, confidence grows, results start showing up, not because the world changed, but because you did. You shifted from reacting to life to creating it. From playing not to lose to playing to win, and that momentum becomes unstoppable. This isn't about hype, it's about ownership. You want to change your life, start with the story, anchor into a new identity. Then take massive, relentless action from that place, because when your story shifts, your standards rise, your behavior evolves, and your reality transforms. The world responds not to what you wish for, but to who you become. So here's the truth: your life is not defined by your past. It's defined by the story you choose to live moving forward. You can keep repeating the same narrative, settling for the same patterns, living the same results. Or you can decide right now that your story is yours to write, not your parents', not your past's, not your pains, yours. And when you take back that pen, when you own your story, rewrite your identity, raise your standards, and take action like your future depends on it, everything changes. Because it does depend on it, this is your moment. Change your story, and you won't just change your day, you won't just change your goals, you'll change your life.